Othany, God, Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Future and Metro Boomin project. We still don't trust you.
Oh no! They still don't trust me?
I don't think it's about you. You don't need to worry.
But I've done everything! I've done everything to earn your trust, Mr. Metro! I know. I'll diss Dr. Drake too. You like that. That's a thing you like.
No, don't drag us into this.
I heard there's scorpions around you. You were her last, but now trouble found you. Wondering where the views went. You hit your ceiling, man. Ain't no room for improvement. They say that nothing's been the same. It's been scary hours since you've been headed down a dark lane. It's my comeback season. I'll roast this Canada goose. I don't even need a reason. You have 24 hours to respond, Drake.
Drake is not responding to that.
Oh.
Okay, super producer, songwriter, Metro Boomin, and of course rapper and singer Future. If you know these guys, which you should at this point, you are very much aware of the fact that this is their second full-length album to drop this year. The sequel to the record We Don't Trust You that dropped, not even a month ago? Which has proven to be one of the most eventful rap releases of the year, not just because of the understandably polarizing disses that landed on the record, most notably Kendrick's verse on Like That, which threw shots at J. Cole and Drake, but also the album featured a lot of chill, druggy, hypnotic trap bangers with lush, elevated production that showcase just how much creative chemistry Future and Metro have together. It was a solid album that left me wanting more, which is why I think a sequel here was in order. But if We Don't Trust You, the first one, had any major prevailing flaw to it, it was that quite a few tracks on the record were kind of underwhelming, maybe a bit too low-key. On some level, it felt like Future and Metro weren't even fully tapping into their abilities as hitmakers, which left me kind of wondering if they were going a little easy on us in the first round. Going even harder the next time around might make absolute sense considering the tensions that Future and Metro inflamed with the first record. But this album actually sees the guys kind of pulling back, believe it or not, into an even more low-key and docile set of tracks that attempt to showcase their softer, more sensual, more dramatic sides, which for sure is a part of Metro's and Future's creative repertoires respectively. Metro has flirted with doing tracks that have kind of a pop or R&B flair in the past, and Future fans, for whatever reason, love hearing him go full Future Vandross mode on projects like Hendrix, even though generally by R&B standards, Future is an awful singer. And yet, here we are, with a full album of this stuff that has kind of a weird structure to it. Because before I get into the core album itself, disc 1 of it, there is a second disc to this thing that features tracks that actually are a lot more hard-hitting and aggressive. And a lot of these cuts are great, actually more exciting than pretty much everything that is on disc 1. And tagging it onto the end kind of feels like a concession of some sort. Like, hey, sorry for delivering such a limp attempt at something softer this time around. We'll give you more of what you actually want on the tail end here, with more Drake shots included to generate headlines and make us look even more desperate to get a response out of him. So even if the second disc on this thing does have some bops, these are songs that should have been swapped out into the first album. Pull out the boring cuts, put these in, elevate it, make it a better project overall. But instead, what we have now is a pretty decent first album, then a totally awful second one with a bunch of extras on the end that make you wonder how it all went wrong. So listening to this record, again, it is clear that Metro definitely wanted to take things in more of an R&B direction this time around with some 80s style pads and synthesizers here and there. But if that's what he wanted to do, I just wish he called on an artist or a singer to collaborate with him that actually would have fit in that style and done it justice, like Ty Dolla $ign, who is featured on this album at one point, or like The Weeknd, who appears here 4 times. Asking Future to take the lead on a record like this is like trying to saw through steel with a butter knife, when what you really need is a blowtorch, which is made apparent right from the beginning of this record on the intro track, which which is like this dreamy 80s synth odyssey with some little annoying laser bits, and Abel, of course, is in the mix, sounding more essential to the track than Future does, whose vocal parts are mostly just repetitious, hanging in the background, not really doing much other than just kind of reiterating the title of the album. The following cut, Drink and Dance, also has some massive 80s vibes to it, but with also some R&B passages to match that are quite dreamy. And it's here Future essentially shows us just how short he's going to be falling vocally throughout the rest of the record. And even the production takes a nosedive on the song This Sunday, where the groove of the track is just either non-existent or mangled between all the starting and stopping kicks and the stuttering hi-hats. Not to mention the song ends out of nowhere and has a random group chorus bit at one point. It's just a mess. The next real highlight on the record is actually the next Weeknd feature, a couple tracks later, where he throws a few shots out, presumably at Drake as he sings his heart out about not having signed his life away. Many assume that he's kind of referencing at one point having had the opportunity to sign to Drake's OVO label and he didn't. And while this is one of the more solid tracks on the record, as I said, I feel like Metro is starting to paint himself into a corner production-wise, because this super basic R&B trap fusion on the rhythm side and then kind of putting some muffled chords or guitar lines or vocal samples on top of that, it's not exactly the most compelling sound or vibe. From here in the track list, we have more mid after that, then the song Right For You, which has one of Future's worst vocal performances, I Wanna Be Right For You. And I just feel like the production on every level is a huge mismatch between the relentless hi-hats, the 808 snares, the African drum hits, the epic synthesizer arpeggios too. It just kind of feels like just a cheaper, crummier version of something you might hear off of Kanye's 808s and Heartbreak. And as if the record wasn't already enough of a massive disappointment up until this point, Metro and Future kind of just twist the knife in even further on the last leg, with Pluto getting even worse on the lyrical front, surprisingly, with this odd dynamic referencing how this person he's into that he misses can fuck this other guy as much as she wants while she thinks of him. It's obsessive, it's weird, it's awkward. It's exactly the kind of thing that I know if Drake put it on a record, he would get murdered for it, but because it's Future and he's like the pinnacle of toxic masculinity, he somehow gets a pass. The song Overload somehow brings things even further down vocally with more awful singing from Future. He seems to lack self-awareness lyrically still, saying, I might say I love ya, but I definitely don't trust ya, which at that point, who's being more fake, you or the other person? You're both being fake. I will give the album this. Beat It and Always Be My Fault are two of the best songs this record has to offer. Even if there are some goofy vocal passages here and there where Future is seemingly kind of digging down vocally into this Michael Jackson-esque growl that makes him sound like he's fucking Corey Feldman. But look, as good as these tracks are, they were absolutely, positively not worth everything I had to sit through to get to this point, so praising them kind of seems pointless. One Big Family is another low on the record. Hearing Future rap and sing about this odd polyamorous situation that he's in, it kind of feels like a worse version of watching one of those stupid TLC Mormon shows. Then the closing track, Red Leather, featuring J. Cole, is the definition of tedious, which is a shame because I do think there are genuinely good lyrical and musical aspects to the very simple and skeletal build this song brings to the table. There's just not enough variation or lyrical content to the track to justify a 7-minute runtime, even with J. Cole on the back end. And his inclusion just kind of makes me wonder, why? Why is he even here? I mean, looking at it on the surface, you could interpret this as like, okay, maybe Future and Metro don't really have an issue with J. Cole, considering, there were shots thrown at him by Kendrick on Like That on the last record. They're kind of rebuilding a bridge here in a sense. But that's not even really being addressed on J. Cole's verse. For the most part, he's just kind of feeding into the narratives around love and lust that Future is dabbling in. But his own way of writing around this kind of makes it feel like he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He doesn't really know what direction to go in. Does he fully embrace lust and desire and chasing pussy, or is he like a one-woman kind of guy? It seems like he wants the latter, but simultaneously he talks about how flirting with and bagging bad bitches kind of gives him power, how he thinks he can just slide into Ruby Rose's DMs and get her too, which, considering how much he embarrassed himself apologizing to Kendrick, kind of backing down off of the beef that he retorted to, I don't know, man. Just the tone of his performance here and his bars just reads as weird. Aw, shucks, Pluto has so many girlfriends. I'm doing it the wrong way. Like, even if those bars on Like That weren't coming out of Future's mouth or Metro's mouth, they did in part facilitate one of the most embarrassing moments of your career in recent years. Because while I don't think Cole needs to operate in the world with, this tough guy attitude where he's confrontational toward everybody, I don't think it would be invalid for Cole to say, hey, with your last record, you kind of created this hell on earth situation for me that I had to deal with. I don't want to be on your next fucking album. But instead, he's here just being like, oh man, I'm cool with Future. Everything's cool. But whatever. What the hell ever. For an album this bad, I suppose you can end it however you want, as long as it ends. But yeah, outside of a couple of pretty good songs and a handful of decent cuts, this record was painfully underwhelming and mid. One of the most disappointing groupings of tracks Metro or Future have put their hands on, and absolutely positively not holding a candle to the original We Don't Trust You, that is for sure. Which is why I'm feeling a strong 2 to a light 3 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. Please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or a link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Future, Metro Boomin, forever.